of business impact analysis, where our partner will analyze the new standard that ISO will be releasing on 22317, and it's important for organizations. As you may be already informed, PCB is organizing weekly webinars in different topics. Every Wednesday, we will organize webinars in information security, business continuity, and disaster recovery. So for all of you that are interested in these areas, stay up to date with PCB, since Wednesday is going to be Security, Continuity, and Recovery Day. This webinar is going to be hosted by a PCB partner, Dr. Wolfgang Marr, the Managing Director of Governance and Continuity GmbH from Switzerland. Please, Wolfgang, you may start the presentation.
Yes, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this planet. It's a pleasure and honor for me to talk to 149 people around the globe, something which I never tried before, but today it's big fun and the possibility to do so. Yes, let's come to the main subject. As we heard in the introduction, we are talking about security, and one aspect is business continuity, BCM, business continuity management, and I would like to focus today on the importance of the foundation of a BCM approach. It's not so easy to say, okay, let's safeguard our enterprise so that we are protected against business interruptions. But you have to prepare for that, and part of this preparation is a part of the BCM Lifecycle, which is called Business Impact Analysis. We'll come to the details later, but I'd like to underline that this is really the foundation. Like if you try to set up a building, you have to have a good foundation, otherwise the building will collapse. Okay, a short overview on the contents. Why BI? Then, as I said, BI is part of the BCM lifecycle. What are the outcomes? How would this impact analysis support BCM goals, the goals we want to achieve with the BCM? Then a view, as we heard, a preview of this new ISO standard 22317, which was initiated a couple of years ago. Then I'd like to focus on approaches on BI, how to really start this analysis, what are the challenges, and finally I'd like to present some tools which are quite beneficial when running a BI. As we see, it's a complex undertaking, and the challenge is to transform or to get a clear picture of your processes and products and services, interdependencies, all the underlying resources you are using in your company to really produce the product and services as required and as by your company strategy. Well, this next page is just an abstract. It's for reference only. We're not going to do that. But we just come to the next slide with the basic question: why do we need to have a BI, a business impact analysis? We see in this picture of a strong, tall building. That's what we want to achieve, that we want to get. We want to get correct and complete protection against business interruptions when going for business continuity. And it's obvious that BCM is a cyclic process, so it's not a project with one end and with one finish, but it is a life cycle. It has a first turn, a second turn, a third turn, and with every turn, we'll come to that later, we have to revisit the in terms of the company. We have to revisit the processes and dependencies because the company may have changed. The BCM life cycle takes maybe anything between 6 and 24 months to complete. So in any changes to the inner workings of the company have to be reflected in a BI. So we have to do actually BI on a periodic base. As BCM is part or is based on continuous improvement, this again calls for an impact analysis to be made before attempting such a project. And as I said just moments ago, we are in a process, a cyclic process with continuous improvement. We have to again and again analyze the inner workings of the company and interdependencies. There's a positive side effect in that most companies don't know their processes well enough, but with an impact analysis, of course, you have to drill down and have to find the different or have to document the different methods, how the processes, the key processes in your organization actually are configured and are run. For example, if we say, yes, we do accounting, or we do controlling, or we do production, then this is a very high-level description of a process, but what it really takes to produce your product, be it a ballpoint pen, or be it a car, or produce a service like transportation of a passenger from A to B, or to produce electricity, is only known after this in-depth analysis. The BI is also, I can only underline this ever and ever again, the basis for what's called the business continuity strategies, which are so-called answers to the business impact analysis, in that sense that they really address the needs or the requirements unearthed by the business impact analysis. So the strategy actually tells us what to do to mitigate the risk, to deal with the risk, and to actually also deal with the handling, how to handle an interruption, a business interruption. So it's not only a theoretical exercise where we say, yes, okay, we might need a backup data center or whatever, or a second location to run our business from, but it also tells you, or should give you an answer on what to do in an emergency, and how to really protect the enterprise from the interruption and make it resilient in order to keep up your production. As I said, it's increasing the efficiency of the organization. I think it's obvious. If I know about my processes, my resources, my dependencies, I can get literally for free tips and hints and directions on how to improve the organization. For example, when in such a BI undertaking, I find out that the process is very clumsy, is very slow. Maybe there are many changes between electronic information and printed information, so that data has to be printed and then maybe re-entered into another system, or if I just depend on one single supplier for a critical part, then I get an automatic indication on how to improve these processes, how to improve the situation, even before thinking of any emergencies or any breakdowns. But just due to the fact that I know the organization much better, I can make the processes much smoother and maybe cheaper and simpler. When I understand better the inner workings of my organization, I will also be able to develop alternative strategic planning options in order to even improve my performance in the company or of the company. If I know more about the internal dependencies, then I may not only on a process level, but also on a strategic level, have a better image or a more clearer image of the organization, and this might impact or might benefit the strategic planning, because I then would see that there are other options than those which we followed in the past. You know, if you examine the processes or the dependencies in a company, then you might get a new idea or new ideas on how to reorganize the company, which is a very beneficial side effect of doing such an analysis. It also supports in long-term strategy decision making. If I know that due to the analysis that certain systems are at their end of life and are not performing very well, or the maintenance costs for these machines or computers or transportation systems are quite high, then I can take a decision to improve the situation and maybe get hold of newer and cheaper and more elegant and more quicker tools, which would help me in the normal operating life and not just in an emergency. And last but not least, if you like, we are dealing with risks, and if we have a closer look into the organization, we certainly can contribute to a missing or an incomplete or an already existing risk analysis, which shows you the vulnerability, what might happen in these or the other area, these or other areas close to the core of the business. So as this is a risk analysis is also the requirement of the core BCM standard ISO 22301. This is also a beneficial side effect of doing a business impact analysis, in that you get risk analysis with maybe not for free, but with much less effort than if you would do it right away without an impact analysis. I have to make a small pause before all the participants receive the new image. Okay, here's the new slide. BI in the BCM Lifecycle, not for, there's a reason why it's right on the top. It says understanding the organization. It's, as I said, it's a foundation. Here it's on top of the wheel, but anyway, it's where the BCM lifecycle actually starts. So first of all, you have to understand the organization. Then if we go on clockwise, we can determine the so-called BCM strategy. We briefly talked about that. Then at the 6 o'clock position, we can develop and implement a BCM response. That's maybe can be described as emergency response teams, business continuity teams, provided with proper documentation, the so-called business continuity plan, on actually describing or prescribing what to do in an emergency. So that's where the situation demands a quick reaction, and one of the big benefits of business continuity is what to do during such an emergency. And if you implement such a response, of course, you're much better off than if you are surprised or taken by surprise and you just have to scratch your head and call together a team of specialists which might or might not be available in order to develop such a response, maybe just evacuating a building or rebuilding a IT system or re-establishing the connection to suppliers, whatever. If you are prepared and you have got this BCM response in place, you're much better off, and the impact and the duration and the seriousness of the impact will be much reduced. That's actually the biggest benefit when an emergency actually happens, an interruption. At the 9 o'clock position, we see the very important phase of exercising, maintaining, and reviewing. We have to train for emergencies or for interruptions, otherwise the reaction during a real case might be not what you expect. So you have to train like firefighters or like sports people or like soldiers. You have to train and train and train to be prepared for the incident, and only then present a good chance really to survive the incident without a big loss to human life and to reputation and financial impacts. The standard ISO 22301 also declares or describes a BCM Lifecycle, which has, I don't know if this can be seen in the slides, of the 4 phases: plan, do, check, act. So we first have to establish a plan. We implement and operate a BCM approach. Finally, we have to check if the approach, now the 6 o'clock position, if this implementation really works. And finally, at the 9 o'clock position, we have to maintain and improve the setup of the approach. The top box says continual improvement of the business continuity management system, BCMS. It's a management system like information security management or quality management or environmental management. So when we designed this standard about 3-4 years ago, we got in the ISO TC 223 who developed this standard, we got the requirements from ISO that it has to look like any other ISO management standard. So we have now a business continuity management system which helps protecting enterprises against business interruptions, so that, as we see in the box on the right side, the so-called interested parties, these are mainly customers and staff and maybe also neighbors or the public. These interested parties kind of enjoy a managed business continuity, better preparation of the enterprise or the organization against business interruptions. And the BIA is in the do box, in the implement and operate box. So after establishing the framework, the resources, preparation of staff, awareness, the commitment of management, we go to this box at the 3 o'clock position, implement and operate, and start with the business impact analysis. So what are the outcomes? What do we really want to obtain as results? First step probably is the validation of the BC program scope. Before we start, let us go back again maybe. In the first phase, the planning phase, we develop a scope and a policy for BCM, and this is a first assumption, and of course this assumption has to be verified, has to be checked, and has to be verified if this primary assumption was correct or was not correct. If Another case, the BIA actually serves to make the BC program more firm, more detailed, more clear. For example, if the first definition of the BC program scope said, as we just want to have business continuity in one location out of our 5 locations, and during the BI we find out that these locations are very much interrelated and interconnected, then it wouldn't make much sense to say, okay, we only deal with one location, but the scope must then probably be changed to enclose all locations, because only then a proper protection can be achieved. Otherwise, this one location maybe on paper has a very good BC program implemented, but if all the remaining partner sites or partner locations don't cooperate or are not resilient and break down, then this one location which we wanted to put in the scope doesn't make sense. Secondly, maybe also quite important, is the identification of the requirements. If we want to go with a business continuity approach, then we have to define the, let's call the protection level or the protection objective, the minimum business continuity objective. Do we want to tolerate that our business is down, let's say, for 1 hour, for 2 hours, for 1 day, or can we, is it impossible to interrupt the business at all, so that we have to have 0 downtime? So these requirements actually have to be determined, and as we will see later, there are different methods to get hold or develop this information, because before you embark on a BC program, these requirements are probably not defined or well defined. There are no discussions, there are no ideas or strict requirements. Maybe we can tolerate a downtime of 4 hours, maybe we can live with 1 hour, whatever, we can maybe 1 day, but unless it has been thoroughly been discussed and validated, this information is not very useful. One of the big advantages of business continuity, or the specific, is that we are dealing with impacts, the growth of impacts over time. While risk management talks about what can happen, what may happen, what maybe even what the impacts are, BCM is very much characterized by the question: what happens if the impact is 0, or the downtime is 0, and the disruption is 0? If it's, well, 0 is business as usual. What is the impact of a downtime, let's say, of 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week? So it's about the discussion or the determination of a level of disruption which we level of impact and length of disruption which we can tolerate. Typically during a BIA there is a discussion, and we find out, or the specialists find out, okay, a downtime of 1 hour is okay, but 1 day is very bad. This would be bad for reputation, would cost a lot of money, and catching up all the transactions lost during this day would be impossible. So during these serious discussions, a threshold level, a level of pain, or level of impact, or a level of accepted impacts in different dimensions is being determined. This is done by thoroughly identifying and thoroughly establishing the relationships between as we see here, for example, the products and services which we want to deliver to our customers, the processes with which these products or services are being produced, are being made ready. This again is based on activities or smaller process elements. And last but not least, the foundation are resources. So resources which we hardly ever think about: electricity, water supply, network connectivity, the availability of applications, the availability of suppliers, the availability of transportation systems. So many things which we take for granted. It is often a big surprise when doing a BI to see that very simple resources which you would not think as being critical are in fact critical. One example I will never forget is that a colleague told me, yes, in our large insurance company, if we don't have water for 2 hours, we have to close everything down. People have to go home. We have to shut down IT, and operation stops. So a simple resource like water, which we take for granted and which we probably don't think of being interrupted a lot, is or can be quite important. If we then think on an interruption which already has happened, we have to think on what to restore first, what to really have, what to tackle first, what is most important, what process or resources or products have the shortest allowed downtime. And if we think on a restoration process, which, for example, in IT, is based on several levels of architecture, starting again with electricity, with networking, with middleware, with applications, with databases. Any such restoration must be planned and rehearsed in the correct sequence. Otherwise, if we just start a project to restore after the interruption has happened, it's certainly much too late. What are the facilities? What are the resources which we need to cope with the emergency? And again, the dependencies and interrelationships. This is on the bottom of this page, but actually very important and sometimes very complicated to find out. An organization grows organically, and new things are added piece by piece. But if you have to restart or restore everything from scratch, then probably it's much harder and would take much more time to, let's say, restore and to find out dependencies on different processes like databases, on pieces of software, release levels, whatever. So this is actually a minefield, and in technically complicated organizations, it's a big challenge. So finally, BI supporting PCM goals. The ultimate goal is protecting the employees. If we really talk about incidents which might result in loss of life, but apart from that, it's company value, reputation. After such an emergency and during such an emergency, if you imagine that the emergency is badly handled and the communication or the approach during these times of crisis is also not good, then there is probably, there's certainly a bad feeling coming up with the public or with the press, and then you not only have to fight to get the company running, but you have to fight against what the media write or what the public thinks of you. So a very important part of handling an emergency is also safeguarding the reputation. If we think on a positive tone, I always underline that PCM supports positive management commitment to increase shareholder value. Actually, if a company is well prepared for an emergency, I think the shareholder value is better, is larger than with a company if everything else is the same, a company which has not planned for an emergency. And I think all of us would rather buy from a company or a supplier where we know, okay, they are stable, they are resilient, and there's no big question of them handling a crisis. So actually, it's the survival of the company, and the company should then flow like this mountain river, even if there is a problem in the operation. Let us have a short look on the 22317, the upcoming standard on BIA. It started 2 years ago at an ISO meeting in the Netherlands, and we have developed in ISO 292 the standard to an extent that it will most probably be published this year. Technically speaking, it's an ISO TS. It's a technical specification. Currently, it's a draft technical specification. And it's, of course, based on the already 3 existing PCM standards, the ISO 22301, which is the specification standard, the 22313, which is a guideline standard, and 22300 is a glossary or an explanation of terms. So the new standard is part of this family, and also try to focus on the importance of BIA. This is actually the heart of this new standard. It focuses on the steps or possible best practice or good practice steps on how to do a BIA, project planning and management. So this is a project and has to be done according to project management standards. It goes through the things we have discussed, prioritization for products, services, and processes and activities. And one important feature also is to not to forget to put weight on top management endorsement of BI results. What we do and what we find during the BI actually has to be endorsed by the top management, and this is a very important step in each project. What are the approaches? The approach can be top-down, gold, silver, bronze is one expression, strategic, tactical. The tools are questionnaires and workshops. We probably have to go through some iterations as well, as there are conflicting findings in a BI process, a BI project, of course, because, well, in short terms, everyone wants to have their department completely replicated in emergency, which would not work. So we have to get the complete picture, which I gave an example here. If you don't understand what it is, it doesn't matter, because it's really a complex 3-dimensional object on a 2-dimensional screen, and it should serve as a a comparison to what we do in a business impact analysis. We see something, but we don't understand it, and we at first moment don't have an idea of what is in front, what is in the back, and things like that. By the way, this is a picture taken in the Alhambra in Granada, Spain, and it's a three-dimensional image of a ceiling, but of course it cannot be easily be seen. When doing this, the BI, of course, we have to get a clear picture, like the picture down on this screen, to go to the fine details by showing commitment or obtaining commitment by all players. We have to apply the right level of effort, not too much, not too little. Probably in most cases it's too little, and the challenges are that our results are complete and correct. In other words, no white spots or no excessive overlap. Some overlap is fine because it gives a good feeling on how credible the results are. But the problem actually is the white spots where we overlook something, and this has to be addressed in a certain way so that this risk of forgetting something or misinterpreting something is eliminated, you know. One of the tools which I briefly want to introduce are so-called Socrates maps, two-dimensional maps which exist in electronic form and on paper, which are wired like our brains are wired, or they are designed so that they can easily be understood, with big themes on the left. The second column is a subdivision of these subjects, and to the right there are features or findings of and for this specific subject. The idea is actually to color the map in order to find out where have we got a stable condition, where are problems, where do we really have to act immediately. So typically white means nothing has happened, we don't know, and the other colors mean that we are in some areas not well prepared, and we have to take actions in order to correct it. So like with this image of, or example of an elephant, depending on where you are looking at, the elephant is the symbol of our company or the company processes. Somebody says, okay, it's a spear. Somebody examining the trunk says it's a snake. For another person, it's a wall or it's a tree, but it's something else. And nobody is right. And only when consolidating the information, for example, with tools like these, you can get a certain or a high degree of confidence that you are doing the right thing and not having forgotten a big or an important relationship. So the benefits are based on the psychological background and methods. Interestingly, this is when information is prepared in this type of display, for us humans it's easier to digest and discuss information than if it's just written on a report in lines like on this slide, from left to right, left to right. And this helps actually to discover new ideas, facts, relationships, and dependencies. As I said, this is the big challenge with the BIA, not to forget important things. And it has been shown that due to the implementation or application of these maps, big or very much improved image of a situation can be achieved in relatively short time, and even for non-technical persons. One other feature is that we are able to get the big picture, start with the big picture, and then add maps behind it with more details. So if a certain situation needs to be addressed in more detail, we can drill down to, I think, as many levels as we want to put light on a detailed factor which needs attention. As we see, these tools can also be used in a kind of hierarchical structure, like in an org chart. This example really is intended for a board level view on a hospital. There are different factors on medicine and kitchen, cafeteria, technology, and on the top right corner we see also an application, security, and BCM. The tools are available or are actually created on electronic tools like PCs and tablets, and are supported by a community to develop these maps and develop them further. So what are the advantages? It's a psychological foundation. It can be used due to the coloring scheme as a maturity model. So if we don't know anything, then we say, okay, it's white, and if some people say it's good or bad, we can discuss it. It can be electronically presented, and as I explained in the previous slide, it's hierarchical and can also span different disciplines. In order to, this slide is a copy of an earlier slide, to tackle this problem of overlaps, gaps, and redundancies, due to the structure of these maps, we obtain an enhanced BI quality and maturity. Without talking about a tool, what are the BI critical success factors? And I guess it's, as with many approaches, follow good practices or best practices like the BCI, Business Continuity Institute's practice guidelines, and or the ISO standards such as 22301, its companion, the 22313, and the new 22317. As you may know, PCB offers certificate training courses on ISO 22301. We've got 1, 2, and 5-day courses leading to a lead implementer and lead auditor qualification. The second main point, top management commitment. They have to be on board, otherwise it's an uphill battle which we only can lose. Apply project management methodologies. So it's a project, and yes, of course, we have to have a project team and a project methodology. There are different types of BI, and there are different approaches. If we go for a detailed small impact analysis or for a top-level analysis, that's a different approach. We also have to deal with the right level of information, or process owners maybe. They know best how the company internal workings actually are structured. I think a tool to obtain a, we may call it true and fair representation, is quite important, in that without a tool, and it may even be a simple Word or Excel tool, we have to document and we have to consolidate information. So to a certain extent we are depending on tools, and depending on the complexity and maybe the scope of the BI, we should certainly think of applying a tool which may, in an ideal condition, of course, can be used in the following phases of a PCM approach. We need to develop a hierarchical view. Sometimes situations are quite complex, and we have to go top down to, let's say, get everyone on board, top down to understand the big picture and not forget the details, which are maybe 1, 2, 3 levels below. Because if you overlook a small detail in a BIA, it might invalidate our whole BCM strategy, and this should rather be avoided, because it would then cost quite a lot of time and money to correct it. And finally, as we are obliged to document our findings, we should rather try to use electronic representation, communication, and archiving. As I said earlier in my presentation, BCM is a lifecycle process, and the BIA is to be revisited after every revolution of the BCM lifecycle. So with the next edition or the next run of a BIA, we can certainly take advantage if we can look back and get access to the documentation we did in the first run. Okay, this ends my presentation. I thank you for your attention. We're still 189 people online, and depending on the time we have still got, I am ready to answer one or the other question I have seen. Oh, just one question. Where do you mention that the main purpose of the BIA is to determine recovery priorities, which then allows the proper selection of strategies? Maybe this was before I explained that, because I tried to make clear over and over again that the main purpose is, one of the main purposes is to determine those recovery priorities. It's also in the ISO standard, in the classic 22301, maybe just as 1 or 2 lines, and in the new 12317 it's again highlighted. So this is a very good question, and it's really important to underline it again and again. It's important to determine these recovery priorities in terms of both which processes to be recovered first, A, B, and C, or A, B, or C, and when trying to doing a recovery for a certain process, as we have seen in previous slides, these processes may be relying itself on sub-processes and activities and suppliers and conditions and network connectivity and water and whatever. So all this whole tree of dependencies has to be determined in order to determine the recovery priorities. Of course, these priorities are also determined or are also shaped by customer expectations, by financial impact considerations. So if your customers expect 0 downtime, then it's a certain process which is 0. If this is a process where maybe customers can wait for a day or for half a day, then the process will then get a lower recovery priority. Okay, are there any other questions? I just see one question. I don't know if I scroll up and down. I see
yes, Wolfgang, thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you.
We have some other questions as well, but unfortunately, we don't have the time to answer to all of them. But we will take the emails. We already have the emails of each and everyone who asked the questions. We want to thank you all for attending and asking the questions. We will reply with answers individually to your emails. Wolfgang and me, and it will be our pleasure to help you. So please feel free to write us for any other questions that you may have regarding this webinar. Once again, thank you, Wolfgang. It was a pleasure having you as a presenter on this webinar, and thank you to all the attendees that participated. Please be updated with PECB. Follow us in our social media channels and in our website as well, since we are going to organize more webinars on different topics and areas, not just in information security, but in many different areas. So stay updated with us, and it will be our pleasure to organize webinars for you. Thank you once again, and I hope to see you soon on next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.